Hello learners, I am Professor Harjeet Kaur Bhatia from Department of Educational Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia. Today I would be discussing with you communication types and barriers. After going through this presentation, you would be able to differentiate between verbal and non-verbal communication, describe one-to-one, one-to-many and many-to-many communication, explain linear and transactional communication, describe various barriers in the process of communication, illustrate the characteristics of communication. Every day we speak with our family members, friends, etc. because we are very social. Man is a social animal. We receive emails from our friends, from our relatives, from our office peers, and we also respond to these emails. We also engage in telephonic conversation. In all these aspects, what are we doing? We are sharing information and experiences with others, and so they are also sharing their experiences with us. Communication may be defined as a process of sharing facts, ideas, opinions, thoughts and information through speech, writing, gestures or symbols between two or more persons. I would like to go beyond this definition. I feel a person also communicates with oneself. For example, while I am speaking to you, I am also listening to myself and I am also giving my feedback to myself. How should I be proceeding? And if there is any mistake, I try to correct myself. Similarly, we introspect, we reflect. That means we can communicate with oneself also. Types of communication can also be based on usage of words. Based on usage of words, communication can be verbal, it can be non-verbal. In verbal, we may have oral or written communication. For example, if we are delivering a lecture, we are in a meeting, in group discussion, conference, telephonic conversation, etc., we are having verbal oral communication. And if we are writing letters, memos, circulars, notices, etc., then we are having written verbal communication. In non-verbal communication, we do not use words. For example, what do we use then? We use visuals. Visuals can be in the form of pictures, graphs, diagrams, etc. For example, if I have to explain digestive system to my learners, it will be very easy for me to use a diagram. If I have to give some data to our learners, then what can be done? I can be using a bar diagram. So the communication can be easy for them to understand. Communication can also be gestural. How gestural? We may be using our body parts and body language to communicate something, to convey messages. For example, when I am folding my hands, it means that I want to greet you. Or if I frown, that means I am angry. If I smile, that means I am pleased. So through body gestures or body language, we can communicate with others. Communication can also be oral. For example, um, if we want, if we are going on a road, on seeing traffic signal turn red, we stop, and when it turns green, we start moving. There is no person, no body language, nobody is writing or speaking, but because these symbols mean, they speak to us in themselves. For example, there is a bell in school and the students and teachers know that they have to assemble for assembly, and similarly the same bell at a different interval, maybe after 2 hours, would mean that it is time for break. Communication can also be classified into typology based on direction. Downward means from top in hierarchy to down. For example, if principal of a school wants to speak to the students, she may write a circular and give it to the headmistress, who in turn would give to the class teachers or teachers, and who in turn would communicate with the students. Similarly, it can be upward. For example, such permission is to be sought. The student may write to the class teacher, or teacher may go to headmistress, and headmistress may seek permission from principal. So it can be upward, downward, and it can also be horizontal. Horizontal means communication between people of same rank. For example, a teacher communicating with another teacher. They indulge in meetings, chalk out various plans, students speaking with students. These are all examples of horizontal communication. Based on networks also, we can have communication as formal and informal communication. There is organizational structure in every institution. For example, in a school, the principal would be having a position and teachers would be having different positions and students will be having different positions. A teacher cannot take liberty with principal, or a student should not be taking liberty with the teacher. Why? Because the formal structure require doesn't allow them to do so. So there is a set pattern how information or communication should flow. Whereas within these structures only we may have informal relations. For example, a teacher may have very good relation with the principal and may be friends with the principal, and she may say certain things not on record, off record, in a manner which is not prescribed. Similarly, some students may have some good relations or some different kind of relations with the teacher, and they may have own way of talking or indulging in things which is not considered appropriate otherwise. Communication can be one-to-one. For example, a person speaking to another person alone. For example, in schools or in colleges, what happened? We have tutorials, we have diagnostic teaching where we try to diagnose the problem or issues related to learning of an individual student. So we engage in one-to-one communication. Even at times we may have to talk to a student not only in case of problem but also to motivate, and there we may have one-to-one communication. Sometimes or most of the times you will find in the school communication is one to many. A teacher comes to the class and she starts teaching. But later in this presentation only, we will get to know even if it is one to many, it is actually many to one also. For example, a person is never a communicator and the other is not always a communicator. A person who is communicating or sending the message is also simultaneously receiving the message. Later in this presentation, we'll deal with this part. And communication can also be many to many. With advent of social media, we have seen that people are making a particular issue viral. For example, you can see the post of on the wall of friend of your friend. So It can be many to many. Many people are giving comments. Communication can also be linear. Here, it is mainly transmission of information. Earlier, people considered this as the major type of communication where it was informational only. Earlier, the role of feedback wasn't given much importance, whereas later in linear transmission, it was considered that the sender will be giving message and receiver would be giving feedback within a particular context, within particular interferences. But still here, it was considered when message is given, receiver is passive, and the onus of communicating was on the communicator or sender only. If we see linear or transmission communication, the role of sender and receiver is clearly demarcated and fixed. How? The receiver, the sender has to send the message and receiver has to receive it, and they can give feedback by using speech or body language, etc. Here, the source or sender is more active decision maker, when to start, when to stop, and the purpose of message is actually passing on the information, and recipient or receiver is considered to be passive. But nowadays we consider communication to be transactional. Transactional means it is shared responsibility, and both sender and receiver are active. It involves both content and message, it content message relationships. So whether you allow other person to give you oral feedback or written feedback or not, or you're taking only gestural feedback, or you're taking into account the other person's feedback or message at all is not or not, this is happening simultaneously. The sender as well as the receiver is active throughout the process of communication. Encoding and decoding is done both by the sender and receiver, that is, sender is also receiver and receiver is also sender, and it is happening simultaneously. It doesn't involve time lag. This is an example of transactional communication. You can see that the communicator is sending and receiving. While he or she is encoding the message, there is noise and there is an environment or frame of reference for communicator and communicatee. The receiver here is also, the person B is also sending and receiving the message. There is noise. Both are giving feedback to each other, and the message itself may have noise or interferences. These noise or interferences may be called as barriers to communication, which we would be doing soon in this presentation. Now, talking about transactional communication, we see that while a teacher is communicating with a student, both influence with each other. For example, if we have a teacher which we feel is treating us with a disfavor, so consequently we respond negatively, and what happens? It reinforces the teacher. On the other hand, if a teacher, if a student feels that the teacher has positive uh, idea about him or her, then whatever the teacher says, the student takes it positively and responds it in that manner. And what happens? It further strengthens the behavior of the teacher. Coming to the barriers to the communication. The barriers may be physical, psychological, mechanical, linguistic, and cultural. First, coming to the physical barrier. There can be competing stimulus. For example, there is other communication going on within the span of teaching. For example, if a teacher is teaching in the class and a student finds two more students are speaking behind him or her, maybe the communication of the students who are behind him or her would be more interesting. Or if somebody is singing song outside, so what happens? The attraction would be towards sound or music. There can be background noise, loud music, or traffic. You might have seen that in schools, if there is aeroplane passing over the sky, the students feel that they should go out and see it rather than listening to the teacher. Then there is also environmental stress. If there is high temperature or if there is poor ventilation, the students may not be able to concentrate, and listening is very important in communication. Or if there are vibrations felt, there is glare. So the students, if written communication is there in the class and on the blackboard there is glare, so what will happen? The students will not be able to understand, and hence communication will not be okay. Now coming to subjective stress. These are related to a particular person. For example, if there is ill health or sleeplessness of on the part of teacher or student, howsoever good environment may be, you might not be able to focus. If there is direct effect or mood variation, for example, if I have had a fight before the class, so I might not be in a proper mood to encode, or a student has had certain fight with somebody, so that person might not be in a proper mood. There can be ignorance of medium. That means we are using a medium which we are unfamiliar with. For example, even certain people do not know how to use chalkboard. So it is a chaos, and people sometimes do not know how to use technology. So there might be whiteboards, smart boards, interactive boards in the class, but the teacher doesn't want to use it or doesn't know how to use it. There may be computers in the class, but the students or teachers, I will feel, if any of them is not able to use them, can be a barrier. Then psychological barrier. Each person communicates from his or her frame of reference. What is this frame of reference? Frame of reference is that we do not see with our eyes only. Whatever experiences we have had will determine how do we view the things. If there are 5 members in a family, you tell them to take a round of the house and describe the house. Each one of them will be describing it in a different manner. For example, if we exchange the retina with another person, even then we will not be seeing the things in the same manner. So the frame of reference of persons will be different. Therefore, what they understand will also be different. A teacher is communicating to the class, but all of them may be understanding it in a different manner. The frame of reference is not same. Then there are mechanical barriers. What are mechanical barriers? They relate to the channels used for communication, maybe for mass or group or interpersonal communication. They may lead to interference in the physical transmission of the message. You might have seen when you are talking on phone, there is certain times cross connection. Certain times you have to yell, you have to shout to make other person understand what you are saying. Sometimes you might have seen that the microphone starts whistling, or there is hissing sound, or there is wrong placement of mic, either it is too near or too far. There can also be linguistic and cultural barriers. Every language has its own codes, and the things may mean different in different languages. For example, word stock would mean to people in England the unsold goods, whereas the stock would mean the capital in America. So, within the cultural background we live in, words may have different connotations. So what should good communicators do, and what is effective process of communication? We know what we have to say. If we can encode our message in a way that it is understandable to the user or to the communicatee, then we can be good communicator. So even Bruner has said that if you can communicate anything to anybody if you're honest enough. So use of words you are encoding in a manner that other person can understand is very important. We have to establish and maintain relationships. For example, if there are psychological barriers, other person cannot communicate with us, the person cannot speak to us or cannot give feedback, or we do not bother what the other person is feeling. So we would not be able to communicate in an effective manner. The received and intended message may be very different. There would be gap. However, when we want to engage in effective communication, we have to lessen or minimize the gap between intended and received message. We have to understand others' perspective. We must be aware of language or cultural background of the other person. We should be aware of the medium or channels the other person or we can use. So if we can understand others' perspectives, we can take into account physical barriers, psychological barriers, then we would be able to communicate effectively. We have to be active listeners. God has given us two ears and one tongue, but we use it the other way. For effective communication, it is essential that we are active listeners. We have to understand and clarify messages. If we feel at any point of time the other person is not understanding the message as we have intended, then we can choose other methods. We can ask the other person at various points of time whether the information or opinions have been understood by the other person in the similar manner or not. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for giving me attention and being here. Thank you so much.